My mother-in-law has been faking cancer for 2 years to manipulate my husband into choosing her over me and our newborn baby by scheduling fake chemo appointments during important family events, so I called her doctor pretending to be her emergency contact and discovered she's been lying about everything, then exposed her at the family reunion she demanded we skip for her fake treatment. I never thought I would be the type of person to investigate my own mother-in-law's medical records, but after 2 years of watching her cancer battle conveniently interfere with every important moment in my marriage, I had reached my breaking point. My name is Jessica, and I've been married to my husband Ryan for 4 years. When we first got together, Ryan's mother Carol seemed like any typical protective mother. She was a little clingy with Ryan, maybe asked too many questions about our relationship, but nothing that raised major red flags. Ryan was her only child, and his father had passed away when Ryan was in college, so I understood that their bond was especially close. The problem started about 6 months after our wedding when Carol began having what she called health scares. It started small. She would call Ryan during our date nights complaining of chest pains or sudden dizziness. Ryan would immediately drop everything to rush over to her house, and by the time he got there, she would be feeling better but would insist that his presence had calmed her nerves and helped her feel safe. At first, I was sympathetic. Carol was in her late 50s, she lived alone, and it made sense that she would be anxious about her health. I encouraged Ryan to take her concerns seriously and even suggested that she see a doctor for a full checkup to address her anxiety about her health. But the timing of Carol's health episodes was suspicious. They always seemed to happen during our romantic evenings, important conversations, or planned activities. If Ryan and I were having a serious discussion about our future or trying to spend quality time together, Carol would inevitably call with some medical emergency that required his immediate attention. The pattern became more obvious over time. Carol would be fine all day, but the moment Ryan and I sat down for dinner or started watching a movie together, she would call in distress. Ryan would rush over, spend hours at her house, and come home exhausted and worried about his mother's declining health. I tried to talk to Ryan about the timing, but he accused me of being insensitive to his mother's genuine health concerns. He said I was being selfish and that a good wife would understand that his mother's health had to come first. I felt guilty for questioning Carol's medical issues, so I tried to be more supportive and understanding. That's when Carol's health problems escalated dramatically. About 18 months after our wedding, Carol called Ryan in tears to tell him that she had been diagnosed with breast cancer. She said she had been having tests done for weeks and had just received the devastating news from her oncologist. Ryan was heartbroken and terrified of losing the only parent he had left. Carol explained that she would be starting an aggressive treatment plan that would include chemotherapy, radiation, and possibly surgery. She said the next few months would be critical for her survival, and she would need Ryan's support more than ever. She made him promise not to tell anyone outside the immediate family about her diagnosis because she wanted to fight this battle privately. Ryan was completely devoted to helping his mother through her cancer treatment. He would drive her to every appointment, stay with her during chemo sessions, and spend entire weekends at her house making sure she was comfortable and had everything she needed. I admired his dedication to his mother and tried to be as supportive as possible during such a difficult time. But Carol's cancer treatment schedule seemed designed to interfere with every significant event in our lives. When we planned a weekend getaway for our second wedding anniversary, Carol suddenly had an emergency chemo session that couldn't be rescheduled. When my parents came to visit from out of state, Carol had a severe reaction to her treatment and needed Ryan to stay with her. When we tried to plan a romantic dinner for Ryan's birthday, Carol was feeling too sick from chemo and needed him to take care of her. Every important moment in our marriage was overshadowed by Carol's medical needs. I felt terrible for resenting a woman who was fighting for her life, but I also felt like I was losing my husband to his mother's illness. Ryan was constantly stressed, exhausted, and emotionally drained from dealing with Carol's cancer battle. The situation became even more complicated when Ryan and I decided to try to have a baby. We had been trying for several months when Carol's condition supposedly worsened. She told Ryan that her cancer had spread and that she might only have months to live. She said she wanted to spend as much time as possible with Ryan while she still could, and she started asking him to spend every weekend at her house. Ryan felt torn between caring for his dying mother and focusing on our relationship and our plans to start a family. Carol would guilt him by saying things like, "I don't know how many more weekends we'll have together, and I just want to make sure I spend my remaining time with the people who matter most." When I finally got pregnant after 8 months of trying, I was over the moon. Ryan was excited too, but Carol's reaction was strange. Instead of being happy about becoming a grandmother, she seemed upset that Ryan would have another responsibility when she needed him most. She started having more frequent medical emergencies and began insisting that Ryan stay overnight at her house several times a week. Carol's cancer treatment schedule also seemed to conflict with every pregnancy milestone. When we scheduled our first ultrasound appointment, Carol suddenly had an emergency oncology consultation. When we planned to tell our extended family about the pregnancy, Carol had a severe reaction to her chemo and needed Ryan to rush her to the emergency room. The most suspicious incident happened when we scheduled our baby shower. I had been planning it for weeks, and all of our friends and family had made arrangements to attend. 3 days before the shower, Carol called Ryan crying and said that her oncologist had moved up her surgery date and that she would be having a major procedure on the same day as our baby shower. Carol begged Ryan to cancel the baby shower and stay with her during the surgery. She said she was terrified of dying on the operating table and that she needed Ryan there to make medical decisions for her if something went wrong. Ryan felt like he had no choice but to cancel our baby shower and spend the day at the hospital with his mother. But here's where things got really suspicious. When I called the hospital to send flowers to Carol's room after her surgery, they told me there was no patient by that name registered for surgery that day. When I asked Ryan about it, he said there must have been some confusion and that his mother had been transferred to a different hospital at the last minute. That's when I started to suspect that something wasn't right about Carol's cancer story. I began paying closer attention to Carol's appearance and behavior during her supposed cancer treatment. She never lost her hair, despite claiming to be on aggressive chemotherapy. She never seemed to lose weight or show any of the physical signs of someone undergoing cancer treatment. She looked healthy and energetic whenever I saw her, which seemed inconsistent with someone fighting a life-threatening illness. I also noticed that Carol's medical emergencies always seemed to happen at the most convenient times for disrupting our plans, but never at random times when we weren't doing anything important. If Ryan and I were just sitting at home watching TV, Carol never called with health crises. But if we had dinner reservations or plans with friends, she would inevitably need emergency medical attention. The final straw came when our baby was born. Our son Michael was born on a Tuesday morning after a long labor, and I was exhausted but thrilled to finally hold our beautiful baby. Ryan was an amazing support during the delivery, and we were both emotional about becoming parents. But within hours of Michael's birth, Carol started calling Ryan with medical emergencies. She claimed that the stress of worrying about me during labor had triggered a severe reaction to her cancer treatment, and she needed Ryan to come check on her immediately. Ryan felt torn between staying with his newborn son and wife, and helping his supposedly dying mother. I told Ryan that he should stay with Michael and me for at least the first day, but Carol kept calling and crying about how sick she was feeling. She said she understood that the baby was important, but she was afraid she might die if Ryan didn't come help her right away. Ryan ended up leaving the hospital just 6 hours after our son was born to go take care of his mother. I was heartbroken and furious that Carol couldn't let us have even one day to bond with our new baby without making everything about her medical crisis. That night, alone